Good morning, everyone out there in Facebook land. As you can see, we're still kind of getting set up here. We're just about there in just a moment. And so I'll go ahead while I'm making these last few changes here and say good morning to everyone as you look at the top of my shiny bald head.
Good morning. I'll say good morning to everyone else out there. Good morning, Andy. Good morning. I can't see the name. The first name. I see the last name, Adams. Oh, that's Jeremiah. Okay, Adams.
And let's see, someone is in our Facebook stream. Don't know who it is, but good morning to whoever you are, and to anyone who may be.
Mysterious person.
What's that again?
Mysterious person.
Oh, yes, that mysterious person. But good morning to everyone. So things being as they are you ready to start, Daryl?
I'm ready.
You ready?
Yes.
You sure you're ready?
I'm ready.
You said you were ready. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
My
morning.
friends.
My friends. Hello, Vicky.
God's blessings. How you doing, Vicky? Upon you. Let's praise the Lord together, my friends. Hey, John in Facebook. We have all awakened in God's shelter. Now we've come to praise His name together. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
My
morning.
friends.
My friends.
Sing Hosanna.
Hosanna.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Allah pa ya ba pa. In the sanctuary of our Lord's protection and the stronghold of our Lord's defense. With His love, our spirits are illumined as we glorify His name. Our hearts are blessed. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
My
morning.
friends.
My friends.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My friend.
My friends.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Daryl. How you doing, man?
Pretty good.
You
How are
doing good? I'm good. I'm good this morning. I don't know if you've noticed, but usually when you ask me that, I say I'm good. and then it's followed by a small complaint or I'm resisting the impulse to do that right now. Good morning, Nini. How you doing? She's there in our Facebook
Good
feed.
morning.
And good morning, Jeremiah and Andy and Vicky and I don't know. And I guess John is still with us. I'm not sure. But we're glad that you all could join us at
Maybe.
this particular time. Oh, he's still, so he is still with us. Okay. So as always, I'll tell you, I actually, I bought a new prayer book. I guess it was
Yes.
last week,
Yeah.
and it's in the other room, and I really wanted to use it. I do have my old prayer book here, but it's one thing that this older prayer book doesn't have that the new prayer book has, is that new prayer book smell. It doesn't. I couldn't wait to say that. So let's start with a prayer by Abdu'l-Baha. O thou compassionate Lord, thou who art generous and able, we are servants of thine, sheltered beneath thy providence. Cast thy glance of favor upon us. Give light to our eyes, hearing to our ears, and understanding and love to our hearts. Render our souls joyous and happy through thy glad tidings. O Lord, point out to us the pathway of thy kingdom, and resuscitate all of us through the breath of the Holy Spirit. Bestow upon us life everlasting, and confer upon us never-ending honor. Unify mankind, and illumine the world of humanity. May we all follow thy pathway, long for thy good pleasure, and seek the mysteries of thy kingdom. O God, unite us and connect our hearts with thy indissoluble bond. Verily, thou art the giver, thou art the kind one, and thou art the Almighty. And again, this is a prayer by Abdu'l-Baha. So, as you know, if you've been joining us in the past, I don't know, how long have we been on this book now? A couple of months?
Yeah, about a little over a month and a half. Maybe.
Really?
Yeah, not that long.
I date some of my stuff. I've got, no, it's about a couple of months.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
I didn't date the first chapter, but the earliest one I have in here is June 11th. So it was before.
Yeah.
No, I have, that's chapter 2, May 28th. So we've been in for a while. I don't know why I'm making an issue of this. But if you've been with us, you know that we've been reading from the book Toward Oneness. Again, you're looking at 2 different copies, but it's the same book, just 2 different editions, but they are generally the same. And we've been dealing with the issue of prejudice. How do you deal with it? It's such a big problem. And last week, we started on chapter 5, which is how to eliminate prejudice. And if you're someone who doesn't have this book, I still, even though we're almost finished with it here, that's still a very good reason to purchase this book and, read it for yourself. But it's just a really, really good book. It kind of gets you focused on how big this problem is and how it truly is a spiritual problem, and how
That's right.
only spiritual what's the word I'm looking for? Solutions will solve this problem. Good morning, Pamela. So, as I said, we started on chapter 5 last week, and now we're going to go ahead and continue. So, Daryl,
So we started in the section that started with the question, what are the spiritual dimensions of our teachings that will bring blacks and whites together? Important question. I'm going to repeat it. What are the spiritual dimensions of our teachings that will bring blacks and whites together? And the last paragraph I read last week was this paragraph. Until a being setteth his foot in the plain of sacrifice, he is bereft of every favor and grace. And this plane of sacrifice is the realm of dying to the self, and that the radiance of the living God may then shine forth. And it goes on to say, your duty is of another kind, for you are informed of the mysteries of God. He's speaking to Baha'is here. Your duty is of another kind, for you are informed of the mysteries of God. Your eyes are illumined, your ears are quickened with hearing. You must, therefore, look toward each other and then toward mankind with the utmost love and kindness. You have no excuse to bring before God if you fail to live according to his command, for you are informed of that which constitutes the good pleasure of God. You have no excuse.
You have no excuse.
You have heard his commandments and precepts. You must therefore be kind to all men. You must even treat your enemies as your friends. You must consider your evil wishers as your well wishers. Those who are not agreeable toward you, you must regard, or those who are not agreeable toward you must be regarded as those who are congenial and pleasant, so that perchance this darkness of disengagement and conflict may disappear from amongst men, and the light of the divine may shine forth, so that the Orient may be illumined and the Occident filled with fragrance, nay, so that the East and West may embrace each other in love and deal with one another. Let me back up. I can't find the spot to back up to. Amongst men, and the light of the divine may shine forth, so that the Orient may be illumined and the Occident filled with fragrance, nay, so that the East and West may embrace each other in love and deal with one another in sympathy and affection.
Now, Daryl, I'm going to stop you right there because, as Baha'is, we just last week or week before last, we pointed out that, as Baha'is, we don't have to make any kind of public confession for wrongdoing and so forth. We simply pray to God for forgiveness, and we don't make any public confession. We're not required to do that.
Absolutely.
Having said that, I got a little confession I want. This is not to ask for forgiveness, but it is to point out something. Number one, we all know how current all of this is, and how relevant all of this is. It says at the beginning of this section you're reading, your duty is of another kind, for you are informed of the mysteries of God. Your eyes are illumined. Your ears are quickened with hearing. You must therefore look toward each other and then toward mankind with the utmost love and kindness. And as you're reading this, and don't get me wrong, I've thought about this before, but as you were reading it, I thought about what was my internal reaction, not to what you were reading, that too, but to the event in Montgomery, Alabama. Are you familiar with the event in Montgomery, Alabama?
Yes, I am. I think the planet is is familiar with the event.
And I will admit that my initial impulse, I am not proud of. Okay, it wasn't just the fact that here's a man who was being taken advantage of, abused, and so forth. You couldn't miss the racial division there.
No, you couldn't.
And I found myself having to take a step back from my initial impulse, which was almost like putting on the T-shirt for the team you're rooting for, rather than seeing this for the wrong that it was across the board.
Right.
Not just the beginning, the first act that set everything off, which was indeed wrong, unquestionably, but then the brawl that it became. And I will say this is that confession that I found myself slipping into like rooting for one side. And I think and I'll admit, it was the black side. And then I had to take a step back and think, wait a minute, all of this is wrong. It's all wrong. It's all wrong.
That's right.
And again, my only reason for bringing this up is to number one, to point out the relevancy of this, but also to point out how, as a human being, we can easily slide into the very mindset that we are told to move away from.
That's right.
And how difficult, what a challenge it can be to maintain the standards that are set before us as Baha'is.
Right.
Which, if we're not careful, like me, it's like you can forget that standard. You can slip into this emotional reaction and disregard the very mandates that we are supposed to be following. Your duty is of another kind, for you are informed of the mysteries of God. Your eyes are illumined, your ears are quickened with hearing. You must therefore look toward each other and then toward mankind with the utmost love and kindness. And I'm glad to say, I meandered my way back to that, but it wasn't easy.
Right.
It wasn't easy. And so if there's anyone else out there that kind of struggled with that, I think that first of all, we have to recognize the humanity that is part of who we are, but we also have to recognize the challenges of that come with maintaining those high standards, and yet the responsibility of still trying to maintain that standard, coming back to that standard, admitting to ourselves that, yeah, I was wrong. And the way I was thinking, I was wrong. And that's a hard admission to make.
True.
Yeah. I'm done.
Humanity, torn with dissension and burning with hate, is crying at this hour for a fuller measure of that love which is born of God. That love which in the last resort will prove the one solvent of its incalculable difficulties and problems. Is it not incumbent upon us, whose hearts are aglow with the love for him, to make all still greater effort to manifest that love in all its purity and power in our dealings with our fellow men? May our love of our beloved Master, so ardent, so disinterested in all its aspects, find its true expression in love for our fellow brethren and sisters in the faith, as well as for all mankind. I assure you, dear friends, that progress in such matters as these is limitless and infinite, and that upon the extent of our achievements along this love will ultimately depend the success of our mission in life.
You waiting for me to interrupt you?
Well, I'm reading back over this sentence. I assure you, dear friends, that progress in such matters as these is limitless and infinite. I missed that.
Oh.
Progress in such matters as these is limitless and infinite, and that upon the extent of our achievements along this line will ultimately depend the success of our mission in life.
If you don't mind my repeating, may our love of our beloved Master find its true expression in love for our fellow brethren and sisters in the faith, as well as for all mankind. Again, I'm still thinking about what I was talking about, and I'm still working through this, man. And I thought about, okay, the security guard. Would my reaction have been so strong had he been of another ethnicity? Would my reaction have been so strong? Even with the reaction that the other people have, would my reaction have been so strong? I would like to think that, number one, I would not have internally reacted the way I did. But even if I did, I would hope that I would be applying the same standard. I mean, we could take away the racial aspect and just say, no, this is wrong. This person who was doing his job was treated wrong. But again, it's hard to avoid or ignore the racial division that was demonstrated in that event. And again, I come back to that question. Again, would my reaction have been as strong had the security guard been Asian or Latin or whatever. I would like to think that any reaction would be based on a general standard of right and wrong. You know, someone who is just simply doing their job is being ignored and then attacked, not based on the color of anyone's skin and so forth and so on. And once again, you know, it's hard to take off that racial T-shirt that we, you know, because of our life's experience, may most closely relate to when things do start getting hot and heavy, and maintain this standard that says, no, you don't fall in line with that stuff. You apply the standards of Baha'u'llah and Abdu'l-Baha, and you follow their example. And you know, when the emotions run high, you know, that's hard to do, and yet it's the mandate is no less important, and the mandate is no less required. It is still required. I will try not to speak on that again, but it's on me, man. It's on me. I'm sorry, it's on me.
Well, I think it's probably on everyone who watched those videos over and over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and when I think about it, I think it wouldn't have mattered what color that person was. What happened was wrong, and it would have been wrong no matter what color that individual was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was someone doing their job, and another group just pouncing on it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
You know?
again, wrong on so many levels.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the part that's easy to you know, just, you know, identify. All that's wrong. But again, that internal reaction, and frankly, you know, I mean, the event is the event, but my internal reaction was what concerned me the most, because I knew that nobody else out there knows what I'm thinking, but I know what I'm thinking. And that, I'll admit, that bothered me. But yeah, we need to be able to certainly identify wrong when it's wrong. And but we have to avoid, again, those knee-jerk reactions that are so common among other people who aren't trying to meet this standard, or might not even know that this standard exists. Yes.
This on behalf of Shoghi Effendi. He hopes that especially in the amity work you will be guided to do the very best, for that is the understanding social problem of that country. If that issue remains and drags, and the existing distrust among colored and white be left to wax stronger, as the master said, the streets will actually run with blood. The streets will actually run with blood. From our point of view, this problem can only be tackled from a spiritual angle. This problem can only be tackled from a spiritual angle. For only by a spiritual awakening can this misunderstanding and prejudice vanish. We are often apt to follow the modern attitude of mind and consider economic issues the common denominator of all our problems. With their spiritual approach, the Baha'is could achieve more than any other movement. With their spiritual approach, the Baha'is could achieve more than any other movement. Can you take over?
Okay.
I'm adjusting.
Okay. Next question. Well, first of all, I want to say that whole idea of a spiritual approach, that's what it takes. It does, you know, that's what it takes. You know, you said we're often apt to follow the modern attitude of mind and consider economic issues the common denominator of all our problems. Yeah, it's a lot more than that. But with their spiritual approach, the Baha'is could achieve more than any other movement. Here's the next question. What will it ultimately take to purge us from these prejudices? What will it ultimately take to purge us from these prejudices? Answer. This is coming from Shoghi Effendi. And he addresses America, or the U.S. specifically. The American nation, of which the community of the most great name forms, and that community of the most great name is a reference to the Baha'is of that time. The American nation of which the community of the most great name forms, as yet a negligible and infinitesimal part, very small at that time, stands indeed, from whichever angle one observes its immediate fortunes, in grave peril. I'm going to shorten that. The American nation stands in grave peril. The woes and tribulations which threaten it are partly avoidable, but mostly inevitable and God sent. It's going to take me 15 minutes to get through this. I'm sorry, but the woes and tribulations which threaten it are partly avoidable, but mostly inevitable and God sent. For by reason of them, a government and people clinging tenaciously to the obsolescent doctrine of absolute sovereignty and upholding a political system manifestly at variance with the needs of a world already contracted into a neighborhood and crying out for unity, will find itself purged of its anachronistic conceptions and prepared to play a preponderating role, as foretold by Abdu'l-Baha, in the hoisting of the standard of the lesser peace, in the unification of mankind, and in the establishment of a world federal government on this planet. We got to break that down. I'm sorry.
Shoghi Effendi.
Yes. Most of it's pretty simple, but he throws some things in there that we need to really, emphasize or at least explain. The woes and tribulations which threaten it, which threaten the American nation, are partly avoidable, but again, mostly inevitable and God sent. A lot of the tribulations we're having, this is sent by God. Hard to believe, but true. For by reason of them being those woes and tribulations, by reason of them, a government and people clinging tenaciously to the obsolescent doctrine, that old mindset or that old law, the obsolescent doctrine of absolute sovereignty. There is no one and nothing above us. Absolute sovereignty, and upholding a political system manifestly at variance with the needs of a world. In other words, this is not what we need right now. Manifestly at variance with the needs of a world contracted into a neighborhood and crying out for unity. We're talking about a world that is attempting to come together, or at least that's the need, and yet you've got this one nation holding itself up above everyone else. And Shoghi Effendi is saying, no. The needs of a world already contracted into a neighborhood and crying out for unity will find itself purged of its anachronistic conceptions. Anachronistic conceptions. That mindset, anachronistic meaning it's out of time. It is no longer right for the time. It's like looking at an old movie and you spot on a character a digital watch from the 40s. That watch, that's not from that time. Well, this mindset of absolute sovereignty over everyone and everything else is out of time. And you might not feel good hearing that. This is coming from Shoghi Effendi. And bottom line is, anyway, I'll stop trying to explain everything. Will find itself, again, the woes and tribulations which threaten it. I don't want to read that whole thing, but anyway, this nation will find itself purged of its anachronistic conceptions and prepared to play a preponderating role, an important part, as foretold by Abdu'l-Baha, in the hoisting of the standard of the lesser peace. We'll talk about that at another time, but the lesser peace, in the unification of mankind, and in the establishment of a world federal government on this planet.
Hey, one question.
Please.
How will we get purged from those anachronistic things? We will find ourselves purged. How will that happen?
Well, I don't pretend to know, but I will say, I think it's like they say about alcoholics and drug addicts, when you reach rock bottom and you see you have nowhere else to turn, you'll finally turn to God and start applying the Word of God as it is revealed for today. And when I say that, I mean this revelation. And once you start applying that guidance and those spiritual solutions to the problems of today, that's when we'll solve those problems. That's when we'll get away from seeing money and military power as the answer to everything. That's difficult to say out loud, and again, I'll admit that a lot of my own opinion is going in that response. But Andy, I know you've already muted yourself. Did you want to weigh in on that at all?
I hadn't planned on that. I just wanted to get your ideas on it. But since you asked, I would have to say this. Well, yes, rock bottom is a point where we realize that we just can't go. Things just cannot go on the way they have been, and that there has got to be a better way.
Yes.
And it would be perhaps as people start looking for what that better way is, that the purging process will happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we are told that the Baha'i faith will be just one of the things that humanity will look at. And one thing that will make a big difference will be how we Baha'is are living. That if, and that the leading thinkers of that time, if they see that the Baha'is are living in accordance with our teachings, they will recommend the faith. Otherwise, they will keep looking elsewhere for answers.
Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you so much. Wow. I'm glad you asked that question. I'm glad you responded. I'm going to finish this section here because Shoghi Effendi goes on and he says, you know, those tribulations that were spoken about earlier, these same fiery tribulations will not only firmly weld the American nation to its sister nations in both hemispheres, but will, through their cleansing effect, purge it thoroughly of the accumulated dross which ingrained racial prejudice, rampant materialism, widespread ungodliness, and moral laxity have combined in the course of successive generations to produce, and which have prevented her being the American nation, have prevented her thus far from assuming the role of world spiritual leadership forecast by Abdu'l-Baha's unerring pen. A role which she is bound to fulfill through travail and sorrow. Wow. I don't know if I want to sing this song now, man. Had you read this before you decided on this song? I know you read this book before, but I mean, had you recently read that before you decided on this song?
No, that was happenstance.
Okay. People get ready, There's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. People get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors and borders. There's hope for all amongst those who love the most.
I believe.
Ooh,
I believe.
I truly believe.
I believe. I do believe. I believe. I believe.
I truly believe.
I believe. I do believe.
There ain't no room for the hopeless sinner who would hurt all mankind just to save his own. Have pity on those whose chances grow thinner, for there's no hiding place against the kingdom's throne. People get ready, there's a train a-coming. Don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. Don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. Don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. Come on, Daryl.
I believe.
Ooh,
I believe.
I believe.
I believe. I do believe. I believe. I believe. I believe. I believe.
People get ready. That's one of the few times we played a song that we didn't personally, and it's
And this was the best of signs because the drum machine behaved.
Thank you, Andy.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
did.
I guess maybe that's a good place to.
Yeah.
To stop?
That was a good ending spot.
Yeah. And yet, I got it. That last sentence. It's a long sentence, but these same fiery tribulations will not only firmly weld the American nation to its sister nations in both hemispheres, but will, through their cleansing effect, purge it thoroughly of the accumulated dross which ingrained racial prejudice, rampant materialism, widespread ungodliness, and moral laxity have combined in the course of successive generations to produce, and which have prevented her thus far. That's the stuff that's preventing us from reaching that level that's predicted we, as a nation, can reach. But it's spiritual leadership. But in the course of successive generations to produce, and which have prevented her thus far from assuming the role of world spiritual leadership forecast by Abdu'l-Baha's unerring pen, a role which she is bound to fulfill through travail and sorrow. Yeah.
There you have it.
And so now, as always, at this particular time, we want to invite anyone who would like to share a prayer or reading or song of your choosing. This is that time, and as always, I again want to say, please keep Kambiz Rahani in your prayers. Please
Absolutely.
do. And Andy, it's time for our Andy Murphy moment. Andy, do you have anything to share with us today?
Yes, indeed.
Please do.
Is there any remover of difficulties? Save God. Say praise be God. He is God. All are his servants, and all abide by his bidding. Is there any remover of difficulties? Save God. Say praise be God. He is God. All are his servants, and all abide by his bidding.
Thank you, Andy. How appropriate.
Welcome.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to share? Well then,
Okay.
let's go ahead and let me readjust here.
So while he's readjusting, I'd like to tell everyone that this event that happens every Sunday here is not just haphazard. It is the work of several individuals and several communities getting together to make this happen. We are working currently through the auspices of the Clearwater Baha'i Center, and they very generously have offered the website and our Zoomcast here allow us to be able to do this every week. And for those of you who are out there who are not familiar with the Baha'i faith, there are some definitive websites that you can go to if you'd like more information. And those websites are www.baha'i.us, www.baha'i.org, www.bahaiteachings.org. And if you happen to be in the Tampa Bay, or you don't even have to be in the Tampa Bay area, but if you'd like more information and you are local, you can always go to the Clearwater Baha'i Center's website at www.clearwaterbaha'is.org.
Yes. My sister's on. Hi, Ameza.
Hi, Ameza.
And I don't know, did I say hi to Pam? I saw her name on,
Yes, you
and
did.
I think I saw Jamie's name. Hello, Jamie. And wow, usually there's other things we have to say, and I don't remember what any of them are right now. I tell you, I will say this: I was not ready for today's reading, and don't get me wrong, I had skimmed over it I don't mean I wasn't prepared. I was not, I think, emotionally ready for today's reading. It's one thing to sit back in the comfort of your own home all by yourself and read some of this stuff, and you can kind of process it objectively. But for whatever reason, and this is kind of just me, when I'm reading this with others, and I feel the gravity of what is being said here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, maybe, because of what we believe about progressive revelation, about all of the major world faiths being part of one constant process of revelation from God, and because of what we believe about Baha'u'llah being the prophet who has revealed God's word for this day,
Right.
and because of what we believe that there will be other prophets to come, it is hard for me to read this with others and not feel more strongly about it. It becomes more palpable for me because it is so important. And that whole thing about this being a constant process of revelation throughout all the ages of mankind, I don't know. Maybe there are other previous revelations that cover these issues in this way. Of course, every major prophet teaches us to love and so forth. But as far as applying these lessons to today, I can't find it any more clearly than in the Baha'i revelation. And I know we're not supposed
Absolutely.
to, certainly not supposed to say this is better than that, but as far as meeting the needs for today, had I not read this, I talked about that initial impulse I had. Had I not read this, I would have still been in that mindset.
Sure.
And reading this is what got me to recognize my own error and got me to see that incident, wrong as it was, in a different light, wrong as it was with the first perpetrators and then what it became.
Absolutely.
And I don't know any other way that I'm just speaking personally here, that I would have moved from my initial mindset to the mindset that I finally have, which is more based on unity and the oneness of mankind, and not them against us or us against them, or whichever way you choose to, frame it. So I'll just stop there and shut my mouth. And Daryl I was going to say, have you ever told me, okay, you need to stop there, we need to move on? Have you ever said that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I may have.
Have you ever thought it?
Of course.
Okay. Let me get set up here while you share your thoughts with.
Share my thoughts.
Yeah.
I have one thought that's kind of keeps playing over and over and over again in my head, and that is, and I'm always willing to share it, is that if you are loved, you are truly, truly, truly blessed. If you share love, then everyone and everything around you is blessed. And it's the easiest, simplest, cheapest thing you could do to improve conditions, not just in your world, but in the world of all those around you. So I only ask one thing, and that is that you share the love. Please.
full of justice. Be as brilliant as the light, and as splendid as the fire that blazed in the burning bush. The brightness of the fire of your love will no doubt fuse and unify the contending peoples and kindreds of the earth, whilst the fierceness of flame of enmity and hatred cannot but result in strife and ruin. We beseech God that he may shield his enemies from the evil designs of his enemies. He verily hath power over all things. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Oh, oh. Be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Watch over yourselves, for the evil one is lying in wait, ready to entrap you. Gird yourselves against his wicked devices, and led by the light of the name of the all-seeing God, make your escape from the darkness that surroundeth you. Let your vision be world-embracing, rather than confined to your own self. These are the words of Baha'u'llah. Be world-embracing. Let your vision be world-embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Oh, oh. Take care, everyone. Have a good week.
Allow